In the heart of a bustling American city, the midday sun beat down on a crowded sidewalk where shoppers and workers moved like a river, indifferent to one another. At the corner of Main and Fifth, an elderly man stood, his weathered face etched with lines of a life hard-lived. His name was Edward Thompson, a Vietnam War veteran, his service medals pinned proudly to his faded green jacket. He leaned on a cane, his hands trembling slightly, not from age but from the weight of memories he carried. In his other hand, he held a small tin cup, collecting change for a veteran's charity. His old service cap, adorned with a faded American flag patch, sat snugly on his head. A group of bullies in their late 20s, 5 of them, swaggered down the street, their laughter sharp and cruel. They wore ripped jeans, studded jackets, and sneers that screamed entitlement. Their leader, a lanky man with a shaved head and a nose ring, spotted Edward and nudged his friends. "Check out the old-timer," he said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. The crowd slowed, some glancing over, others pretending not to notice. The man stepped closer, his voice dripping with mockery. "Yo, Grandpa, you really think you're a hero with that rusty tin can? What did you do, shine boots in the war?" Edward's eyes, pale blue and steady, met the man's. "I serve my country, son," he said quietly. "Something you might not understand." The group of bullies burst into laughter, circling Edward like hyenas. The leader snatched the cap off Edward's head, tossing it to the ground. "This country don't care about you, old man. Look at you, begging like a dog." He stomped on the cap, grinding it into the pavement. The crowd froze, a collective hush falling over them. Some looked away, ashamed. Others recorded on their phones, more interested in viral content than human decency. Edward's shoulders sagged, but his gaze never wavered. He stood taller, gripping his cane, his dignity unbroken. From the edge of the crowd, a man watched. He was unremarkable at first glance, lean, bald, dressed in a plain black jacket and jeans. But his eyes, sharp and unyielding, burned with a quiet intensity. Jason Statham, a man who'd seen his share of battles, both on screen and in the shadows of his own past, had been passing through on his way to a meeting. He wasn't looking for trouble, but trouble had a way of finding him. And when he saw Edward's cap hit the ground, something inside him snapped. Jason stepped forward, his movements deliberate, parting the crowd like a blade through water. The group of bullies didn't notice him at first, too busy jeering at Edward. The leader raised his foot to stomp the cap again, but a voice cut through the air, low and steady, like the calm before a storm. "Pick it up." The group of bullies turned, their laughter dying. Jason stood there, hands loose at his sides, his stare locked on the leader. The man sneered, sizing him up. "Who the hell are you, tough guy? Pick it up," Jason repeated, each word a hammer strike. The crowd held its breath. The leader laughed, but it was forced now, his confidence wavering. He glanced at his friends, expecting backup, but they hesitated, sensing something dangerous in the stranger's calm. The leader, trying to save face, stepped closer, puffing out his chest. "You wanna play hero? I'll drop you right here." He swung a wild punch, aiming for Jason's jaw. The crowd gasped, but Jason was already moving. He sidestepped smoothly, grabbing the man's wrist and twisting it just enough to make him yelp. In one fluid motion, Jason swept the man's legs, sending him crashing to the pavement. The other 4 bullies froze, their bravado evaporating. Jason didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You don't disrespect a man who's fought for you," he said, his eyes sweeping over the group of bullies. "You don't mock sacrifice." He pointed at the cap, still lying in the dirt. "Pick it up. Now." One of the bullies, a wiry guy with a mohawk, scrambled forward, grabbing the cap and brushing it off. He handed it to Edward with a mumbled, "Sorry, man." Edward took it, his hands steady now, his eyes glistening but proud. The crowd began to murmur, some clapping softly, others nodding in approval. Jason wasn't done. He turned to the leader, still sprawled on the ground, rubbing his wrist. "You think you're tough because you've got a pack," Jason said, crouching to meet the man's eyes. "Real strength is standing up when no one else will. Like him." He nodded toward Edward. "He's tougher than you'll ever be." The leader's face burned with shame, but he said nothing. Jason stood, addressing the crowd now. "You all watched. You let this happen. Next time, don't just stand there." His words weren't angry, but they carried weight, cutting through the bystander apathy like a knife. A woman in the crowd, middle-aged with a grocery bag in hand, stepped forward. "I'm sorry," she said to Edward, her voice trembling. She reached into her purse, pulling out a $20 bill and dropping it into his tin cup. "Thank you for your service." Others followed, one by one, digging into pockets and wallets, filling the cup with bills and coins. A young boy, no older than 10, ran up and hugged Edward's leg. "My grandpa was in the army," he said. "You're awesome." Edward's stoic facade cracked, a tear rolling down his cheek. He patted the boy's head, then looked at Jason. "Thank you, sir," he said, his voice thick. "Didn't expect anyone to care." Jason gave a small nod, his expression softening for the first time. "Someone always cares," he said. He reached into his jacket, pulling out a worn leather wallet. From it, he took a folded American flag, the kind given at military funerals. "This was my father's," he said quietly, handing it to Edward. "He served, too. Keep it." Edward's hands shook as he took the flag, clutching it to his chest. The crowd was silent now, the weight of the moment sinking in. Even the group of bullies, still lingering at the edges, seemed changed, their heads bowed. Jason turned to leave, but Edward called out, "What's your name, son?" Jason paused, glancing back. "Doesn't matter," he said. "Just keep doing what you do." He melted into the crowd, gone as quickly as he'd appeared. The group of bullies slunk away, their swagger gone, replaced by a lesson they wouldn't soon forget. The crowd dispersed, but not before a few more stopped to shake Edward's hand or drop money into his cup. Edward stood taller, his cap back on his head, the folded flag tucked into his jacket. For the first time that day, he smiled. Across the street, Jason watched from a distance, unnoticed. His phone buzzed, a text from his agent about the meeting he was late for. He ignored it, his eyes on Edward. He'd done what he had to, not for glory, but because it was right. In a world that often looked the other way, he'd stood up. And that, he knew, was enough. As the sun dipped lower, Edward began his slow walk home, his tin cup heavy with donations, his heart heavier with gratitude. The city moved on, but for those who'd witnessed it, the moment lingered, a reminder that courage, kindness, and honor still had a place, even in the chaos of a busy day.